This is Section 2 of 1601. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 1601, a conversation as it was by the Social Fireside in the time of the Tudors, by Mark Twain. The first printing, verbatim reprint. Date, 1601. Conversation as it was by the Social Fireside in the time of the Tudors. Mem. The following is supposed to be an extract from the diary of the Pepys of that day, the same being Queen Elizabeth's cup-bearer. It is supposed that he is of ancient and noble lineage, that he despises these literary canaille, that his soul consumes with wrath to see the Queen stooping to talk with such, and that the old man feels that his nobility is defiled by contact with Shakespeare and Company, and yet he has got to stay there till Her Majesty chooses to dismiss him. Yesternight took her maist ye Queen a fantasy such as she sometimes hath, and had to her closet certain that do write plays, books, and such like, these being my Lord Bacon, his worship Sir Walter Raleigh, Mr. Ben Jonson, and ye child Francis Beaumont, which being but 16, hath yet turned his hand to ye doing of ye Latin masters into our English tongue, with great discretion and much applause. Also came with these ye famous Shakespeare, right strange mixing truly of mighty blood with mean, ye more in especial since ye Queen's Grace was present, as likewise these following, to wit, ye Duchess of Bilgewater, 26 years of age, ye Countess of Granby, 30, her daughter ye Lady Helen, 15, as also these two maids of honor, to wit, ye Lady Marjorie Boothie, 65, and ye Lady Alice Dilberry, turned 70, she being 2 years ye Queen's Grace's elder. I, being her mate's cupbearer, had no choice but to remain, and behold rank forgot, and ye high hold converse with ye low as upon equal terms. A great scandal did ye world hear thereof. In ye heat of ye talk it befell, yet one did break wind, yielding an exceeding mighty and distressful stink, whereat all did laugh full sore, and then ye Queen, verily in mine 68 years have I not heard the fellow to this fart. Meseemeth, by ye great sound and clamour of it, it was male, yet ye belly it did lurk behind shoulder now fall lean and flat against ye spine of him, yet hath been delivered of so stately and so waste a bulk, whereas ye guts of them ye do quiff splitters bear, stand comely still and round. Prithee let ye author confess ye offspring. Will my Lady Alice testify? Lady Alice, good your grace, and I had room for such a thunderbust within mine ancient bowels, 'tis not in reason I could discharge ye same and live to thank God for it. He did choose handmaid so humble whereby to show his power. Nay, 'tis not I it have brought forth this rich overmastering fog, this fragment gloom, so pray you seek ye further. Ye Queen, mayhap ye Lady Marjorie hath done ye company this favour? Lady Marjorie, so please you, madam, my limbs are feeble, with the weight and drouth of 65 winters, and it behoveth it I be tender unto them. In ye good providence of God, and I had contained this wonder, forsooth would I have given ye whole evening of my sinking life to ye dribbling of its forth, with trembling and uneasy soul, not launched it sudden in its matchless might, taking mine own life with violence, rending my weak frame like rotten rags. It was not I, your majesty. Ye Queen, O God's name, who hath favoured us? Hath it come to pass it fart shall fart itself? Not such a one as this, I trow. Young Master Beaumont, but no, 'twould have wafted him to heaven like down of a goose's body. 'Twas not ye little Lady Helen, Nay, ne'er blush, my child. Thou'lt tickle thy tender maiden head with many a mousy squeak before thou learnest to blow a hurricane like this.
Wast thou, my learned and ingenious Jonson?
Ben Jonson? So fell a blast hath ne'er mine ears saluted, nor yet a stench so all-pervading and immortal. 'Twas not a novice did it, good your majesty, but one of veteran experience, else had he failed of confidence. In sooth it was not I. Ye Queen. My Lord Bacon? Lord Bacon. Not from my lean entrails hath this prodigy burst forth, so please your grace. Not doth so befit ye great as great performance, and haply shall ye find it, 'tis not from mediocrity this miracle hath issued. Though ye subject be but a thought, yet will this tedious sink of learning ponderously philosophize. Meantime did the foul and deadly stink pervade all places to that degree, yet never smelt I ye like. Yet dare I not to leave ye presence, albeit I was like to suffocate. Ye Queen. What saith ye worshipful Master Shakespeare? Shakespeare. In the great hand of God I stand, and so proclaim mine innocence. Though ye sinless hosts of heaven had foretold ye coming of this most desolating breath, proclaiming it a work of uninspired man, its quaking thunders, its firmament-clogging rottenness, his own achievement in due course of nature, yet had not I believed it, but had said the pit itself hath furnished forth the stink, and heaven's artillery hath shook the globe in admiration of it. Then was there a silence, and each did turn him toward the worshipful Sir Walter Raleigh, that browned, embattled, bloody swashbuckler, who rising up did smile, and simpering say, Sir Walter, most gracious majesty, 'twas I that did it, but indeed it was so poor and frail a note compared with such as I am wont to furnish, yet in sooth I was ashamed to call the weakling mine in so august a presence. 'Twas naught, and less than naught, madam. I did it but to clear my nether throat, but had I come prepared, then had I delivered something worthy. Bear with me, please your grace, till I can make amends. Then delivered he himself of such a godless and rock-shivering blast, that all were fain to stop their ears, and following it did come so dense and foul a stink, that that which went before did seem a poor and trifling thing beside it. Then saith he, feigning that he blushed and was confused, I perceive that I am weak today, and cannot justice do unto my powers, and sat him down as who should say, There, it is not much, yet he that hath an arse to spare, let him fellow that, and he think he can. By God, and I were ye Queen, I would e'en tip this swaggering braggart out of the court, and let him air his grandeurs, and break his intolerable wind, before ye deaf, and such as suffocation pleaseth. Then fell they to talk about ye manners and customs of many peoples, and Master Shakespeare spake of ye boke of ye Sieur Michael de Montaigne, wherein was mention of ye custom of widows of Perigord to wear upon ye headdress, in sign of widowhood, a jewel in ye similitude of a man's member wilted and limber, whereat ye Queen did laugh, and say widows in England do wear pricks too, but betwixt the thighs, and not wilted neither, till coition hath done that office for them. Master Shakespeare did likewise observe how yet ye Sieur de Montaigne hath also spoken of a certain emperor of such mighty prowess, that he did take 10 maidenheads in ye compass of a single night, ye while his empress did entertain 22 lusty knights between her sheets, yet was not satisfied, whereat ye merry Countess Granby saith, Ram is yet ye emperor's superior, sith he will tup 100 ewes twixt sun and sun. And after, if he can have none more to shag, will masturbate until he hath enriched whole acres with his seed. Then spake ye damned windmill Sir Walter, of a people in ye uttermost parts of America, ye'd capulate not until they be 35 years of age, ye women being 28, and do it then but once in 7 years. Ye Queen.
How doth that like my little Lady Helen? Shall we send thee thither and preserve thy belly?
Lady Helen.
Please your Highness's grace, mine old nurse hath told me there are more ways of serving God than by locking the thighs together. Yet am I willing to serve him yet way too, sith your Highness's grace hath set ye an sample.
Ye Queen.
God wounds a good answer, child.
Lady Alice.
Mayhap 'twill weaken when ye hair sprouts below ye navel.
Lady Helen.
Nay, it sprouted 2 years syne. I can scarce more than cover it with my hand now.
Ye Queen.
Hear ye that, my little Beaumont? Have ye not a little bird about ye that stirs at hearing tell of so sweet a nest?
Beaumont. 'Tis not insensible, illustrious madam, but mousing owls and bats of low degree may not aspire to bliss so whelming and ecstatic as is found in ye downy nests of birds of paradise. Ye Queen.
By ye gullet of God, 'tis a neat-turned compliment. With such a tongue as thine, lad, thou'lt spread the ivory thighs of many a willing maid in thy good time, and thy codpiece be as handy as thy speech.
Then spake ye Queen of how she met old Rabelais, when she was turned of 15, and he did tell her of a man his father knew, that had a double pair of bollocks, whereon a controversy followed as concerning the most just way to spell the word, ye contention running high betwixt ye learned Bacon and ye ingenious Jonson, until at last ye old Lady Marjorie, wearing of it all, saith, Gentles, what mattereth it how ye shall spell the word? I warrant ye, when ye use your bollocks ye shall not think of it. And my Lady Granby, be ye content. Let the spelling be. Ye shall enjoy the beating of them on your buttocks just the same, I trow. Before I had gained my 14th year, I had learnt that them that would explore a cunt stopped not to consider the spelling on't. Sir Walter. In sooth, when a shift's turned up, delay is meet for naught but dalliance. Boccaccio had a story of a priest that did beguile a maid into his cell, then knelt him in a corner to pray for grace to be rightly thankful for this tender maidenhead ye Lord had sent him. But ye abbot, spying through ye keyhole, did see a tuft of brownish hair with fair white flesh about it, wherefore when ye priest's prayer was done, his chance was gone, for as much as ye little maid had but ye one cunt, and that was already occupied to her content. Then conversed they of religion, and ye mighty work ye old dead Luther did do, by ye grace of God. Then next about poetry, and Master Shakespeare did read a part of his King Henry IV, ye which, it seemeth unto me, is not of ye value of an arse full of ashes, yet they praised it bravely, one and all. Ye same did read a portion of his Venus and Adonis, to their prodigious admiration, whereas I, being sleepy and fatigued withal, did deem it but paltry stuff, and was the more discomforted, in that ye bloody buccaneer had got his wind again, and did turn his mind to farting with such villain zeal that presently I was like to choke once more. God damn this windy ruffian and all his breed. I would that hell might get him. They talked about ye wonderful defence which old Sir Nicholas Throgmorton did make for himself before ye judges in ye time of Mary, which was unlucky matter to broach, sith it fetched out ye Queen with a pity ye, having so much wit, had ye not enough to save his daughter's maidenhead sound for her marriage bed, and ye Queen did give damned Sir Walter a look it made him wince, for she hath not forgot he was her own lover, it yet old day. There was silent uncomfortableness now. 'Twas not a good turn for talk to take, sith if ye Queen must find offence in a little harmless debauching, when pricks were stiff and cunts not loath to take each stiffness out of them, who of this company was sinless? Behold, was not ye wife of Master Shakespeare 4 months gone with child when she stood up before ye altar? Was not her Grace of Bilgewater rogered by 4 lords before she had a husband? Was not ye little Lady Helen born on her mother's wedding day? And, behold, were not ye Lady Alice and ye Lady Marjorie there, mouthing religion, whores from ye cradle? In time came they to discourse of Cervantes, and of the new painter Rubens, that is beginning to be heard of. Fine words and dainty wrought phrases from the ladies now, 1 or 2 of them being, in other days, pupils of that poor ass Lille himself. And I marked how that Jonson and Shakespeare did fidget to discharge some venom of sarcasm, yet dared they not in the presence, the Queen's Grace being ye very flower of ye euphuists herself. But behold, these, be they yet having a specialty, and admiring it in themselves, be jealous when a neighbor doth assay it, nor can abide it in them long. Wherefore 'twas observable yet ye Queen waxed uncontent, and in time labored grandiose speech out of ye mouth of Lady Alice, who manifestly did mightily pride herself thereon, did quite exhaust ye Queen's endurance, who listened till ye gaudy speech was done, then lifted up her brows, and with vast irony, mincing, saith, "Oh, shit!" Whereat they all did laugh, but not ye Lady Alice, it old foolish bitch. Now was Sir Walter minded of a tale he once did hear ye ingenious Margaret of Navarre relate, about a maid, which being like to suffer rape by an old archbishop, did smartly contrive a device to save her maidenhead, and said to him, "First, my lord, I prithee, take out thy holy tool and piss before me." Which doing, lo, his member fell, and would not rise again.
End of 1601, and end of section 2. This is section 3 of 1601. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 1601, Conversation as it was by the Social Fireside in the Time of the Tudors, by Mark Twain. Footnotes to frivolity. The historical consistency of 1601 indicates that Twain must have given the subject considerable thought. The author was careful to speak only of men who conceivably might have been in the Virgin Queen's closet and engaged in discourse with her. The characters. At this time, 1601, Queen Elizabeth was 68 years old. She speaks of having talked to old Rabelais in her youth. This might have been possible, as Rabelais died in 1552, when the Queen was 19 years old. Among those in the party were Shakespeare, at that time 37 years old, Ben Jonson, 27, and Sir Walter Raleigh, 49. Beaumont at the time was 17, not 16. He was admitted as a member of the Inner Temple in 1600, and his first translations, those from Ovid, were first published in 1602. Therefore, if one were holding strictly to the year date, neither by age nor by fame would Beaumont have been eligible to attend such a gathering of august personages in the year 1601. But the point is unimportant. The Elizabethan writers. In the Conversation, Shakespeare speaks of Montaigne's essays. These were first published in 1580, and successive editions were issued in the years following, the third volume being published in 1588. In English, Montaigne was early popular. It was long supposed that the autograph of Shakespeare in a copy of Florio's translation showed his study of the essays. The autograph has been disputed, but diverse passages, and especially one in The Tempest, show that at first or second hand the poet was acquainted with the essayist. Encyclopedia Britannica. The company at the Queen's fireside discoursed of Lilly, or Lely, English dramatist and novelist of the Elizabethan era, whose novel, Euphues, published in 2 parts, Euphues, or The Anatomy of Wit, 1579,
and Euphues and His England, 1580, was a literary sensation. It is said to have influenced literary style for more than a quarter of a century, and traces of its influence are found in Shakespeare, Columbia Encyclopedia. The introduction of Ben Jonson into the party was wholly appropriate, if one may call to witness some of Jonson's writings. The subject under discussion was one that Jonson was acquainted with in The Alchemist. Act 1, Scene 1. Face.
Believe it, I will.
Subtle.
Thy worst, I fart at thee.
Dull common.
Have you your wits? Why, gentlemen, for love.
Act 2, Scene 1. Sir Epicure Mammon.
And then, my poets, the same that writ so subtly of the fart, whom I shall entertain still for that subject and again in Bartholomew Fair.
Nightingale sings a ballad.
Here for your love and buy for your money a delicate ballad o' the ferret and the coney, a preservative again the punk's evil, another goose green starch and the devil, a dozen of divine points and the godly garter, the faring of good counsel of an ell and 3/4. What is't you buy? The windmill blown down by the witch's fart, or St. George's that, did break the dragon's heart.
Good old English custom. That certain types of English society have not changed materially in their freedom toward breaking wind in public can be noticed in some comparatively recent literature. Frank Harris, in My Life, Volume 2, Chapter 13, tells of Lady Marriott, wife of a Judge Advocate General, being compelled to leave her own table, at which she was entertaining Sir Robert Fowler, then the Lord Mayor of London, because of the suffocating and nauseating odors there. He also tells of an instance in Parliament, and of a rather brilliant bon mot spoken upon that occasion.
While Fowler was speaking, Finch Hatton had shown signs of restlessness. Towards the end of the speech he had moved some 3 yards away from the baronet. As soon as Fowler sat down, Finch Hatton sprang up holding his handkerchief to his nose. "Mr. Speaker," he began, and was at once acknowledged by the Speaker, for it was a maiden speech, and as such was entitled to precedence by the courteous custom of the House. "I know why the right honorable member from the city did not conclude his speech with a proposal. The only way to conclude such a speech appropriately would be with a motion."
Aeolian crepitations. But society had apparently degenerated sadly in modern times, and even in the era of Elizabeth, for at an earlier date it was a serious, nay, capital offense to break wind in the presence of majesty. The Emperor Claudius, hearing that one who had suppressed the urge while paying him court had suffered greatly thereby, intended to issue an edict allowing to all people the liberty of giving vent at table to any distension occasioned by flatulence. Martial, too, Book 12, Epigram 77, tells of the embarrassment of one who broke wind while praying in the Capitol.
"One day, while standing upright, addressing his prayers to Jupiter, Ethon farted in the Capitol. Men laughed, but the father of the gods, offended, condemned the guilty one to dine at home for 3 nights. Since that time, miserable Ethon, when he wishes to enter the Capitol, goes first to Paterclius' privies, and farts 10 or 20 times. Yet, in spite of this precautionary crepitation, he salutes Jove with constricted buttocks." Martial also, Book 4, Epigram 80, ridicules a woman who was subject to the habit, saying, "Your Bassa, Fabulous, has always a child at her side, calling it her darling and her plaything, and yet, more wonder, she does not care for children. What is the reason, then? Bassa is apt to fart," for which she could blame the unsuspecting infant. The tale is told, too, of a certain woman who performed an Aeolian crepitation at a dinner attended by the witty Monseigneur Duponloup, Bishop of Orleans, and that when, to cover up her lapse, she began to scrape her feet upon the floor and to make similar noises, the bishop said, "Do not trouble to find a rhyme, madam." Nay, worthier names than those of any yet mentioned have discussed the matter.
Herodotus tells of one such, which was the precursor to the fall of an empire and a change of dynasty, that which Amasis discharges while on horseback, and bids the envoy of Apries, king of Egypt, catch and deliver to his royal master. Even the exact manner and posture of Amasis, author of this insult, is described. St. Augustine, The City of God, 14:24, cites the instance of a man who could command his rear trumpet to sound at will, which his learned commentator fortifies with the example of one who could do so in tune. Benjamin Franklin, in his letter to the Royal Academy of Brussels, has canvassed suggested remedies for alleviating the stench attendant upon these discharges. My prize question, therefore, should be to discover some drug, wholesome and not disagreeable, to be mixed with our common food or sauces, that shall render the natural discharges of wind from our bodies not only inoffensive, but agreeable as perfumes. That this is not a chimerical project and altogether impossible may appear from these considerations: that we already have some knowledge of means capable of varying that smell. He that dines on stale flesh, especially with much addition of onions, shall be able to afford a stink that no company can tolerate, while he that has lived for some time on vegetables only shall have that breath so pure as to be insensible of the most delicate noses, and, if he can manage so as to avoid the report, he may anywhere give vent to his griefs unnoticed. But as there are many to whom an entire vegetable diet would be inconvenient, and as a little quick lime thrown into a jakes will correct the amazing quantity of fetid air arising from the vast mass of putrid matter contained in such places, and render it pleasing to the smell, who knows but that a little powder of lime, or some other equivalent, taken in our food, or perhaps a glass of lime water drank at dinner, may have the same effect on the air produced in and issuing from our bowels. One curious commentary on the text is that Elizabeth should be so fond of investigating into the authorship of the exhalation in question, when she was inordinately fond of strong and sweet perfumes. In fact, she was responsible for the tremendous increase in importations of scents into England during her reign. Ye boke of ye Sieur Michael de Montaigne. There is a curious admixture of error and misunderstanding in this part of the sketch. In the first place, the story is borrowed from Montaigne, where it is told inaccurately, and then further corrupted in the telling. It was not the good widows of Périgord who wore the phallus upon their coifs. It was the young married women of the district near Montaigne's home, who paraded it to view upon their foreheads as a symbol, says our essayist, of the joy they derived therefrom. If they became widows, they reversed its position and covered it up with the rest of their headdress. The emperor mentioned was not an emperor. He was Proculus, a native of Albenque, on the Genoese coast, who with Bonosus led the unsuccessful rebellion in Gaul against Emperor Probus. Even so keen a commentator as Cotton has failed to note the error. The empress, Montaigne does not say his empress, was Messalina, third wife of the Emperor Claudius, who was uncle of Caligula and foster father to Nero. Furthermore, in her case, the charge is that she copulated with 25 in a single night, and not 22, as appears in the text. Montaigne is right in his statistics, if original sources are correct, whereas the author erred in transcribing the incident. As for Proculus, it has been noted that he was associated with Bonosus, who was as renowned in the field of Bacchus as was Proculus in that of Venus. Gibbon, Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. The feat of Proculus is told in his own words in Vopiscus, History Augustine, page 246, where he recounts having captured 100 Sarmatian virgins and unmaidened 10 of them in one night, together with the happenings subsequent thereto. Concerning Messalina, there appears to be no question but that she was a nymphomaniac, and that, while Empress of Rome, she participated in some fearful debaucheries. The question is what to believe, for much that we have heard about her is almost certainly apocryphal. The author from whom Montaigne took his facts is the elder Pliny, who, in his Natural History, Book 10, Chapter 83, says, "Other animals become sated with venereal pleasures. Man hardly knows any satiety." Messalina, the wife of Claudius Caesar, thinking this a palm quite worthy of an empress, selected for the purpose of deciding the question one of the most notorious women who followed the profession of a hired prostitute, and the empress outdid her after continuous intercourse, night and day, at the 25th embrace. But Pliny, notwithstanding his great attainments, was often a retailer of stale gossip, and in like case was Aurelius Victor, another writer who heaped much odium on her name. Again, there is a great hiatus in the annals of Tacitus, a true historian, at the period covering the earlier days of the empress, while Suetonius, bitter as he may be, is little more than an anecdotist. Juvenal, another of her detractors, is a prejudiced witness, for he started out to satirize female vice, and naturally aimed at high places. Dio also tells of Messalina's misdeeds, but his work is under the same limitations as that of Suetonius. Furthermore, none but Pliny mentions the excess under consideration. However, where there is much smoke, there must be a little fire, and based upon the superimposed testimony of the writers of the period, there appears little doubt but that Messalina was a nymphomaniac, that she prostituted herself in the public stews naked and with gilded nipples, and that she did actually marry her chief adulterer, Silius, while Claudius was absent at Ostia, and that the wedding was consummated in the presence of a concourse of witnesses. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. Claudius hastened back to Rome, Silius was dispatched, and Messalina, lacking the will to destroy herself, was killed when an officer ran a sword through her abdomen, just as it appeared that Claudius was about to relent. "Then spake ye damned windmill, Sir Walter." Raleigh is thoroughly in character here. This observation is quite in keeping with the general veracity of his account of his travels in Guyana, one of the most mendacious accounts of adventure ever told. Naturally, the scholarly researches of Westermarck have failed to discover this people. Perhaps Lady Helen might best be protected among the Jibaros of Ecuador, where the men marry when approaching 40. Ben Jonson in his Conversations observed, "that Sir W. Raleigh esteemed more of fame than of conscience." Ye Virgin Queen. Grave historians have debated for centuries the pretensions of Elizabeth to the title the Virgin Queen, and it is utterly impossible to dispose of the issue in a note. However, the weight of opinion appears to be in the negative. Many and great were the difficulties attending the marriage of a Protestant princess in those troublous times, and Elizabeth finally announced that she would become wedded to the English nation, and she wore a ring in token thereof until her death. However, more or less open liaisons with Essex and Leicester, as well as a host of lesser courtiers, her ardent temperament, and her imperious temper are indications that cannot be denied in determining any estimate upon the point in question. Ben Jonson in his Conversations with William Drummond of Hawthornden says, "Queen Elizabeth never saw herself after she became old in a true glass. They painted her, and sometimes would vermilion her nose. She had always about Christmas evens set dice that threw sixes or five, and she knew not they were other, to make her win and esteem herself fortunate. That she had a membrana on her, which made her uncapable of man, though for her delight she tried many. At the coming over of Monsieur, there was a French chirurgeon who took in hand to cut it, yet fear stayed her, and his death." It was a subject which again intrigued Clemens when he was abroad with W.H. Fisher, whom Mark employed to nose up everything pertaining to Queen Elizabeth's manly character. Boccaccio hath a story. The author does not pay any great compliment to Raleigh's memory here. There is no such tale in all Boccaccio. The nearest related incident forms the subject matter of Dineo's novel, the fourth, of the first day of the Decameron. Old Sir Nicholas Throgmorton. The incident referred to appears to be Sir Nicholas Throgmorton's trial for complicity in the attempt to make Lady Jane Grey Queen of England, a charge of which he was acquitted. This so angered Queen Mary that she imprisoned him in the Tower and fined the jurors from £1,000 to £2,000 each. Her action terrified succeeding juries, so that Sir Nicholas's brother was condemned on no stronger evidence than that which had failed to prevail before. While Sir Nicholas' defense may have been brilliant, it must be admitted that the evidence was weak. He was later released from the Tower, and under Elizabeth was one of a group of commissioners sent by that princess into Scotland to foment trouble with Mary, Queen of Scots. When the attempt became known, Elizabeth repudiated the acts of her agents, but Sir Nicholas, having anticipated this possibility, had sufficient foresight to secure endorsement of his plan by the council, and so outwitted Elizabeth, who was playing a two-faced role, and Cecil, one of the greatest statesmen who ever held the post of principal minister. Perhaps it was this incident to which the company referred, which might in part explain Elizabeth's rejoinder. However, he had been restored to confidence ere this, and had served as ambassador to France. To save his daughter's maidenhead, Elizabeth Throckmorton, or Throgmorton, daughter of Sir Nicholas, was one of Elizabeth's maids of honor. When it was learned that she had been debauched by Raleigh, Sir Walter was recalled from his command at sea by the Queen and compelled to marry the girl. This was not "in that old day," as the text has it, for it happened only 8 years before the date of this purported conversation, when Elizabeth was 60 years old. Partial bibliography. The various printings of 1601 reveal how Mark Twain's fireside conversation has become a part of the American printer's lore. But more important, its many printings indicate that it has become a popular bit of American folklore, particularly for men and women who have a feeling for Mark Twain. Apparently it appeals to the typographer, who devotes to it his worthy art, as well as to the job printer, who may pull a crudely printed proof. The gay procession of curious printings of 1601 is unique in the history of American printing. Indeed, the story of the various printings of 1601 is almost legendary. In the days of the jour printer, so I am told, well-thumbed copies were carried from print shop to print shop. For more than a quarter century now, it has been one of the chief sources of enjoyment for printers' devils, and many a young rascal has learned about life from this fireside conversation. It has been printed all over the country, and if report is to be believed, in foreign countries as well. Because of the many surreptitious and anonymous printings, it is exceedingly difficult, if not impossible, to compile a complete bibliography. Many printings lack the name of the publisher, the printer, the place or date of printing. In many instances, some of the data, through the patient questioning of fellow collectors, has been obtained and supplied. 1. Date 1601. Conversation as it was by the Social Fireside in the time of the Tudors. Description. Pamphlet, pages 1 through 8. Without wrappers or cover, measuring 7 by 8 inches. The title is set in caps and small caps. The excessively rare first printing, printed in Cleveland, 1880, at the instance of Alexander Gunn, friend of John Hay. Only 4 copies are believed to have been printed, of which, it is said now, the only known copy is located in the Willard S. Morse collection. 2. Date 1601. Conversation as it was by the Social Fireside in the time of the Tudors. Memo. The following is supposed to be an extract from the diary of the Pepys of that day, the same being cupbearer to Queen Elizabeth. It is supposed that he is of ancient and noble lineage, that he despises these literary canaille, that his soul consumes with wrath to see the Queen stooping to talk with such, and that the old man feels his nobility defiled by contact with Shakespeare, etc., and yet he has got to stay there till Her Majesty chooses to dismiss him. Description. Title as above, verso blank. Pages I through XI. Text, verso. Page XI blank. About 8 by 10 inches, printed on handmade linen paper soaked in weak coffee, wrappers. The title is set in caps and small caps. Colophon, at the foot of page XI, done at ye Académie Pref, MDCCC LXXXII. The privately printed West Point edition, the first printing of the text authorized by Mark Twain, of which but 50 copies were printed. The story of this printing is fully told in the introduction. 3. Conversation as it was by the Social Fireside in the time of the Tudors, from ye Diary of ye Cupbearer to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. Design. Imprinted by ye Puritan Press at ye Sign o' ye Jolly Virgin 1601. Description. 2 blank leaves. Page I blank. Page II fronds. Page III title as above. Page IV mem. Pages 1 through 25 text. I blank leaf 4 3/4 by 6 1/4 inches, printed in a modern version of the Caxton black letter type on MBM French handmade paper. The frontispiece, a woodcut by A.E. Curtis, is a portrait of the cupbearer, bound in buff gray boards, buckram back. Cover title reads, in pale red ink, Caxton type, Conversation as it was by the Social Fireside in the time of the Tudors. The Byway Press, Cincinnati, Ohio, 1901, 120 copies. Probably the first published edition. Later, in 1916, a facsimile edition of this printing was published in Chicago from plates. End of Section 3 of 1601, and end of 1601, Conversation as it was by the Social Fireside in the time of the Tudors by Mark Twain. Read by John Greenman.